The phone screen was the last place anyone expected a crime. But what waited inside, near the rain window, would change everything that followed. Something about the movie theater didn't add up. Every lead pointed back to the same dark corner, and the truth was buried deeper than anyone imagined. It began like most cases do, quietly. The police file seemed ordinary. It wasn't. He was wrong. As thunder rolled across the Pacific, Marcus's hand trembled over his phone screen. The anonymous sender wasn't just threatening him. They were proving something far more terrifying. The real killer was still out there, still watching, and they weren't finished with their deadly game. The question that had haunted audiences for years, could the perfect crime truly exist, was about to be answered in blood. What started as entertainment was becoming a nightmare, and Marcus Chen was trapped in the center of his own twisted creation. Released in January 2021, Crime 101 shattered box office records, earning $340 million worldwide. The film followed Professor David Sterling, a criminology expert who murders his colleague using techniques he'd taught his students, then frames an innocent graduate student for the horrific crime. What made the movie extraordinary wasn't its budget or star power, it was the unsettling realism of the murder itself. Forensic consultants marveled at the accuracy. Police departments used scenes as training material, and the fictional crime was so meticulously crafted that real detectives studied it, searching for flaws they couldn't find. But in the small college town of Cedar Falls, Minnesota, Detective Sarah Martinez watched the film with growing unease. Every detail, the victim's positioning, the weapon placement, the deliberate contamination of evidence, matched photographs she'd studied obsessively for 7 long years. These were photographs from a case that had destroyed her career and consumed her life: the murder of Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell. On November 15, 2014, the respected psychology professor at Millbrook College was found dead in her locked office, and the initial investigation had gone terribly wrong. The primary suspect, graduate student Tommy Morrison, had apparently used techniques from Hartwell's own forensic psychology course to cover his tracks. But Martinez had never believed it. The crime was too sophisticated, too perfect for a student to execute. Now, watching Crime 101, she realized why. Someone had stolen their unsolved case and turned it into entertainment. Someone who knew details that were never released to the public. Someone who might be the real killer hiding in plain sight. The truth was more terrifying than any fiction Hollywood could create. Millbrook College, 2014? A prestigious liberal arts institution where autumn leaves crunched under the feet of 3,000 students, and Gothic buildings cast long shadows across manicured lawns. Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell was the crown jewel of the psychology department. Brilliant, beloved, and utterly dedicated to her students. Her specialty was forensic psychology, particularly the study of criminal behavior and investigative techniques. Her course, Psychology 401 Criminal Minds and Methods, was the most popular on campus. Students called it Crime 101, and the irony would later seem prophetic and chilling. On that frigid November morning, maintenance worker Carlos Reeves discovered Hartwell's body. She lay beside her mahogany desk, skull fractured from what appeared to be a fall. Her office was locked from the inside, the key still in her pocket, creating an impossible puzzle. Security footage showed only one person entering her office building that evening: Tommy Morrison, her graduate research assistant. The evidence seemed overwhelming and damning. Tommy's keycard accessed the building at 8:43 p.m. His fingerprints were on the murder weapon, a heavy glass paperweight from Hartwell's desk. Traces of her blood were found on his jacket, discovered in his apartment the next day. But Detective Martinez noticed troubling inconsistencies that everyone else seemed willing to ignore. Tommy's alibi, studying at the library until 10 p.m., was corroborated by 3 witnesses and time-stamped computer logs. The blood spatter pattern suggested someone taller than Tommy's 5'6" frame. Most disturbing, the crime scene showed signs of staging that exceeded Tommy's knowledge base. Yet, when physical evidence trumps witness testimony, cases close quickly and careers end for detectives who ask too many questions. Tommy Morrison was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. Case closed. Career over for the detective who couldn't let it go. Martinez was transferred to traffic duty 6 months later, her reputation destroyed for pursuing what others called a conspiracy theory. 7 years after Tommy Morrison's conviction, Detective Martinez sat in a darkened theater, watching her life's greatest failure transformed into blockbuster entertainment. But this wasn't just inspiration drawn from headlines, this was recreation, detail by detail, of evidence that had never been made public. The killer's approach in Crime 100 mirrored the Hartwell murder exactly, entering through a maintenance corridor to avoid main security cameras, using the victim's own teaching materials to plan the crime, and employing a technique called evidence saturation. This was no coincidence. Evidence saturation meant deliberately planting so much incriminating evidence that investigators would stop looking for alternatives. Most chilling, the film's villain used a specific method of blood transfer that Martinez had theorized, but never proven, wearing a jacket belonging to their chosen patsy. After the screening, Martinez began investigating Marcus Chen. The screenwriter's background was impressive, but oddly sparse before 2015. Born in San Francisco, educated at Stanford, he'd worked on several minor productions before Crime 101 made him famous. But there were suspicious gaps. One gap coincided perfectly with November 2014. Martinez discovered that Chen had visited Milberg College twice, that autumn, ostensibly researching academic settings for a different screenplay. He'd attended Dr. Hartwell's lectures, interviewed students about campus security, and even met with Tommy Morrison personally. The access was perfect, the timing damning. But when Martinez attempted to contact Chen through official channels, his representatives claimed he was unavailable for comment regarding ongoing creative projects. Phone calls went unanswered, emails bounced back, and the man who'd built a career on one perfect crime had seemingly vanished. Then Martinez received her own anonymous message that made her blood run cold. Stop digging, or join your friend in a cell. The threat was clear and terrifying. Someone was watching her investigation. Someone who knew about her pursuit of the truth. Someone who'd already destroyed one life. But Martinez had spent 7 years knowing an innocent man was in prison. She couldn't stop now, not when she was finally close to the truth. The killer had made their first mistake by threatening her, and she intended to make them pay for every life they'd destroyed. The break came from an unexpected source, Dr. Hartwell's own research. While reviewing the victim's computer files, evidence that had been dismissed as irrelevant 7 years earlier, Martinez discovered Hartwell's private correspondence from the weeks before her murder, and it changed everything. The professor had been investigating something she called the authenticity problem in her forensic psychology course. Several students had submitted case studies that were too detailed, too accurate to be theoretical exercises. When Hartwell attempted to trace their sources, she'd uncovered something disturbing and dangerous. Someone was feeding her students information from active police investigations. Her final email, sent the day she died, was addressed to the FBI's Ethics Division. I believe someone in law enforcement is using my classroom to perfect criminal techniques. They're testing theories through my students, then applying what they learn. The email was never sent. She was murdered 3 hours before the scheduled transmission. Martinez's blood ran cold as she read Hartwell's notes. The professor had identified 3 suspicious submissions, all from the same student. But it wasn't Tommy Morrison who had caught her attention. Tommy was mentioned as a concerned observer who'd brought the irregularities to Hartwell's attention. The real suspect was Marcus Chen, enrolled under his middle name Michael. He'd audited Hartwell's course while supposedly researching his screenplay, but his knowledge exceeded even graduate-level training in disturbing ways. More damning, Chen had submitted a detailed case study titled The Perfect Academic Murder, a theoretical crime that matched his eventual victim's death with terrifying precision. Dr. Hartwell had arranged to meet with Chen the night she was killed, intending to confront him about his suspicious expertise. The meeting was scheduled for 9 p.m. in her locked office. She never got the chance to expose him as the dangerous predator he truly was. Instead, she became his proof of concept, the final test of his perfect murder theory. Tommy Morrison was released from Millbrook Correctional Facility on a Tuesday morning in March 2022. His conviction overturned based on Martinez's evidence. 7 years, 4 months, and 16 days of his life were gone forever, but he was alive, which was more than could be said for his professor. Marcus Chen's Malibu mansion was found empty, no signs of struggle or hurried departure. He'd simply vanished like a ghost, leaving behind only a handwritten note on expensive stationery. The perfect crime isn't one that's never solved. It's one that's solved incorrectly. The FBI's investigation revealed Chen's true background, a former police consultant who'd helped solve dozens of murders across multiple states. He'd learned from each case, studying investigative blind spots and forensic limitations like a predator, learning to hunt more effectively. Dr. Hartwell's classroom had been his final laboratory, her murder his graduation exercise. But Chen had made one fatal miscalculation. By turning his perfect crime into entertainment, he'd created evidence that could never be destroyed, preserved forever in digital format. Every theater screening, every streaming view, every DVD sale was a confession preserved in perpetuity. Detective Martinez returned to Homicide Division as a consulting investigator, specializing in cold cases where the obvious suspect might be the wrong one, carrying the lesson she'd learned too late. She keeps a photo of Tommy Morrison on her desk, a reminder that sometimes the most convincing evidence is the most dangerous. The manhunt for Marcus Chen continues across multiple states, but he remains a ghost, vanished without a trace into the criminal underworld. Some say he's planning his next perfect crime, studying new victims and perfecting his techniques. Others believe he's already committed it, and we just haven't found the body yet. The truth is more terrifying than either possibility. He could be anyone, anywhere. Crime 101 was quietly pulled from streaming platforms and theatrical distribution in June 2022. But bootleg copies circulate in the darkest corners of the internet, studied by those who see it not as entertainment, but as instruction manual for murder. The question remains haunting and unanswered. How many other fictional crimes are actually unsolved, murders, waiting for someone brave enough to connect the dots? How many killers are hiding their confessions in plain sight, disguised as entertainment for unsuspecting audiences? In Cedar Falls, Minnesota, Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell's office remains empty, her nameplate still mounted beside the door like a memorial. Students walk past it every day, heading to their own Crime 101 classes, never knowing they're passing the scene of the perfect murder. Or perhaps, given Tommy Morrison's freedom, it wasn't so perfect after all. The story ends there, but somewhere in the shadows, Marcus Chen is watching, learning, and possibly writing his next script. The next perfect crime might already be in production. The true horror of the Crime 101 case isn't just that a killer walked free for years. It's that he turned his victims into entertainment, profiting from their deaths, while an innocent man rotted in prison. Justice delayed, but never truly served. Marcus Chen understood something that most criminals never grasp. The best place to hide the truth is in fiction. Audiences dismiss what they see on screen as imagination, never questioning whether the horrors they're watching might be real memories disguised as creativity. Detective Martinez continues her work, but she's changed by what she discovered. Every crime thriller she watches, every mystery novel she reads, every true crime documentary makes her wonder, is this entertainment or confession? The line between fiction and reality has been forever blurred. The FBI has established a new task force to investigate potential connections between unsolved murders and popular entertainment. They call it the Fiction Protocol, and they're discovering that the Crime 101 case may not be unique after all. Hollywood executives now face uncomfortable questions about their hit movies. How many screenwriters are drawing from personal experience rather than imagination? How many perfect crimes are hiding behind the protection of artistic license and creative freedom? Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell died trying to expose the truth about her classroom being used as a laboratory for murder. Her final investigation may have cost her life, but it ultimately saved Tommy Morrison and exposed a killer's methodology to the world. Tommy Morrison speaks rarely about his 7 years in prison, but when he does, he emphasizes one point: the system failed him completely. Physical evidence was trusted over witness testimony, and nobody questioned whether the crime was too perfect to be committed by an amateur. The psychological profile of Marcus Chen reveals a methodical predator who spent years perfecting his craft. Unlike typical killers driven by passion or rage, Chen approached murder like a research project, constantly refining his techniques and studying law enforcement responses. His choice of Dr. Hartwell as a victim wasn't random. She represented the perfect combination: a forensic psychology expert who could challenge his methods, and a respected professor whose murder would create the ideal test case for his theories about evidence manipulation. The international manhunt for Marcus Chen has expanded to include Interpol and multiple foreign law enforcement agencies. They're operating under the assumption that he's already established a new identity, and may be working on his next project somewhere in the world. Crime 101's box office success has been forever tainted by its dark origins. The film that once entertained millions is now studied by criminologists as an example of how killers can hide in plain sight, using the entertainment industry as cover. The victims in this case extend beyond Dr. Hartwell and Tommy Morrison. Every person who watched Crime 101 unknowingly participated in the killer's fantasy, applauding a recreation of real murder, while the true perpetrator collected profits from their entertainment. Film schools now teach courses about the ethical responsibilities of screenwriters and the dangers of drawing too heavily from real criminal cases. The Crime 101 scandal has changed how the industry approaches true crime adaptations forever. Detective Martinez has received hundreds of messages from viewers who now question the origins of their favorite crime thrillers. The paranoia is spreading. If Crime 101 was real, what other movies might be confessions disguised as entertainment? The legacy of Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell lives on through the Hartwell Foundation, established to provide legal aid for wrongfully convicted individuals. Her death exposed a killer, but more importantly, it created a system to prevent future injustices, like Tommy Morrison's imprisonment. The hunt for Marcus Chen continues, but one question haunts investigators around the world: if he was bold enough to turn one murder into a blockbuster film, what other crimes is he planning to immortalize? The perfect killer may have only just begun his deadly career in entertainment.